Okay, let's talk PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X, aka Xbox, aka Xbox 4. Just call it Xbox 4. So over the last 2 or 3 days, we've had a crazy amount of information. So it all started off on the 16th, where Digital Foundry got exclusive access, and I think one other YouTuber. I mean, Xbox, what are you doing? Shout out to your boy. Okay, what? Wait, shout out to your boy makes it sound like I'm in bed with him. No, I mean, like, I would have liked to have seen it. I like playing with tech. I could have broke stuff. Anyway, so Digital Foundry and I think one other YouTube channel got to have an exclusive look at it. And it was the same thing when PS5, a few days later, PS5 dropped some information again. They only spoke to 1 or 2 press outlets because, you know, it's 2020, chat, but like they still feel that, you know, press outlets are the most relevant to get information out because that's where the views are right now, right? YouTube and Twitch doesn't matter. Those content creators don't matter as much. That's the story for another day. Anyway, so yeah, 16th, that bit of information came out, and then a few days later, Sony reacted. So we're gonna be bouncing between those articles because that's what everybody's using. Even other press sites are using because they never got access. So everybody's going off of that. And yeah, just to reiterate, I'm just gonna how we're gonna do this is I'm gonna drop all the factual information that came out, try to gather it all. Then I'm gonna give a little bit of an opinion piece, and then we'll cut it there so it's a nice roundabout video, and then we'll take questions and we'll do a discussion, a round table, if you will. But we'll leave that for Twitch because I'm sure, you know, YouTube viewers just want that short. They just want the information. What's better? Okay, so starting off with Xbox Series X, they've been trickling out information bit by bit, and they finally did their big reveal. There's a Digital Foundry video up on an article. Go check it out if you like hardcore nerd specs. They showed the design off. They showed what the expandable storage is going to be like. There was a breakdown video to show how it all went together. They showed off the new controller. They talked about ray tracing. They talked about backward compatibility. They went all out. Like, regardless if you're Xbox side, your PlayStation side, you don't care about both sides, just looking at it from the outside perspective, this time round, because I should note, like, I'm in my 30s, so I've seen almost all but 1 or 2 console generations and being a part of them, right? Obviously I couldn't see the NES launch because I was too young, but after that, seeing it all to this point. So Microsoft is doing a very good job to get that information out there. And then the 16th, they put the information out. A couple of days later, Sony reacted, and then all of a sudden we got information. Because even though Microsoft has been putting out information slowly over the last months, from PlayStation, we've just had radio silence. They did like a Wired article, and that was about it. Now with Corona, we got to talk about coronavirus because it could affect everything. With Corona going on, a lot of the big press conferences and everything were cancelled, which people are saying this is when that information of these consoles will come out. So now everybody's doing Nintendo style. Oh, we put out the information ourselves over streams and stuff. So that's how we're going to foreseeably for the future get this information as well, because Corona doesn't look like it's going away anytime soon. Who knows if it's even going to affect supply chain for these consoles or anything, because at the moment we just don't know. So about 2-3 days later, PlayStation rushed together something that was like yesterday. I was gonna stream yesterday just to cover it. I am so glad I didn't. I would have been reeing out my mind, because what can you say? What can you say? Okay, so that's the timeline of everything. we got a full, we know what the Xbox looks like. We know the full tech specs. For the Sony side, we don't know what the console looks like yet. We have got full tech specs now. For anybody who's a hardcore nerd about this stuff, there was a big leak, because even though Xbox put out this information about a rough tech spec for their console, there was a big leak in November, December about the PS5, where apparently it was from the AMD Fab Factory. There was a leak, and there was a GitHub somewhere, so everybody was going off of that because the rumors were it's like 9 teraflops. And now it's seeming like a lot of those leaks were true once we get into the information. So yesterday they did their press conference. You should go. I should show the dislike ratio, and this doesn't actually, it does matter. I was gonna say this doesn't matter in the long run, but it really does matter in the long run, because this is like, public opinion is what wins generations. Because like, even though we're hardcore gamers, mass adoption of anything is what wins console generations. The more consoles a platform sells, it just means more developers and publishers want to make games for that. And so yeah, yesterday when this first dropped, this was on like it instantly jumped to like 40k dislikes. It was about 80k likes. Last night when I checked, it was on 65k dislikes, jumped up to 100k likes. But this just kind of shows what the mass public thought of this, the way they went about and did their press. I don't know, what do we call it? Like their reveal event, you know. Now people are saying like this was put together like last minute, because they jumped on it because Xbox did such a good job, like, you know, of like showing off their stuff, just well prepared. They got Digital Foundry involved. They got one big YouTuber involved. Just slick. The presentation was slick. The information was out there. People was like, oh, like you just want to read one headline. And so they jumped on it. And apparently this was going to be their GDC talk, which they cancelled because of Corona. And for some strange reason, they thought it would be a good idea to have their first big reveal of their console by putting out the GDC talk. So let's go back a bit. Let's go back 7-8 years. I don't know how many of you are gonna remember this. YouTube wasn't as big then. You know, live streaming was just kicking off, but they did something similar for PS4. Mark Cerny came out. He did a talk at GDC. They killed it. Everybody's like, oh my god, this is so good. You know, that's when they started controlling the message and the public started getting on their side. And we know how Xbox and John Matrick, I can't remember, I'm not sure who's head of Xbox then. They was putting out messages that gamers hated. They were saying that the rumors were that you might not be able to like swap games, share games, play used games. It was gonna always be connected console. So the public perception started to switch, right? Because remember, last generation PS3 and Xbox 360 ran away with it, like hands down. Even though technically the PS3 was a more powerful console, but Xbox being easier to develop for, sold more units, and to publishers and developers, that's all that matters. Whichever unit sells more, that's the one that is going to be their lead platform, regardless if it's underpowered, overpowered. That's where they can make their most money on, because there's more of those consoles. So last generation Xbox, like in the long run, I think PlayStation caught up and probably sold more consoles. But you know, that was the lead platform for a lot of publishers, developers. So Sony came out swinging for PS4. They did so much good press. They had a more powerful console. And it's like, now we start all over again. This is how console generations start. Like, either you can be real fangirl about it, like, oh no, I'm hardcore this, I'm hardcore that, or you could just like be cool-minded and like, okay, what am I going to buy next generation? Am I going to buy both, or what's going on? What's the real tech spec? I feel like that's how I'm going to go about it. Like, it doesn't really matter to me. Well, I should state that I'm not gonna lie, I'm a kind of a PlayStation fanboy. But now that I'm a content creator, I literally have every single platform and we cover everything. So it really doesn't matter to me in the long run, right? Because I'm gonna cover both. I am a pro streamer. I'm gonna ignore that though. I'm gonna get to that in a second. Cobra, thank you for the resub. What's going on, Sean? So yeah, we're just gonna finish going over these specs and then I'll talk to chat. So you know, like I was originally, I probably still am a Sony fanboy, but I'm gonna look at this from a down the middle path and just like put the specs out and tell you what I think. Right? So we're now going through this cycle again. They're dropping information out. Consoles are gonna launch at the end of the year. Public's finally getting the information. How are they reacting on it? And for what Microsoft did 3 days ago and what they've leading up to this, getting that information out, they are doing a much better job. Hands down, they are doing a much better job than they did last generation. And Sony is doing a worse job. Like last generation, at the start of last generation, or this generation, should we say, Sony was doing a better job. Xbox did a terrible job, and we know how that led to. Like, I would like to make some crazy predictions, but it's still way too early for that, right? But I can totally see it like, oh, in 5 years or 4 years, we come back and we say, oh, this was the start of the downfall. This was their first big whatever. So if we do this in rounds, just for like, you know, maybe entertainment purposes, or you're just looking back and I'm going to buy both anyway, but this is kind of fascinating, right? From what is going on now, you can clearly tell that Xbox has won round one, you know. Like if you look at all the YouTube videos that are going up, or the Facebook videos, Instagram posts, Twitter, everybody's blowing up about it. Everybody's carrying that story that Xbox is more powerful. What was Sony doing? This was a terrible way to reveal. You know, like Xbox is starting to win hearts and minds already, right? We can get so that's how it is at the moment. This was like a 52-minute. This was like a 52-minute press conference. Mark, like at the beginning, they addressed it like, oh, we had to cancel our stuff because of, you know, Corona. Like Mark Cerny. So if we go a bit back, Mark Cerny was who helped develop, was the main architect behind PS4. Up to that point, for PS1, 2, 3, it was Ken Kutaragi. But Ken Kutaragi did such a bad job with PS3. Like, they didn't want him to lead for PS4. Cerny did such a good job with PS4. He's the head designer for PS5 again. So he's doing a fantastic job. He came, he did his speech. It was just for the wrong crowd. It was this, like, if you went back 7 years ago, you would think like you have gone back in time. And for Sony, for a company who is like understands PR is so important in 2020, it's like they were blind to this information. Like, do you not know how the world's moving now? Like, press sites really don't matter. Even press sites themselves going, oh, we're on the back foot because of YouTubers, because of streamers. We don't even know if we're that relevant anymore. Like, most of them are trying to become YouTubers and streamers because they know that's where the crowds are, that's where the views are, that's where more relevant information is. So that's how they go about launching information. That's how games are dropped. That's how information is put out. You know, Xbox went and took one of the biggest tech YouTube channels and one of the biggest YouTubers to, like, that's how they dropped that information. And Sony just went and did exactly what they did 7 years ago. Like, they've been living in a bubble. Like, they're resting on their laurels, and now they let the mass public control the messaging. And when you put out a product, if we talk about this from a business standpoint, right, point of view, when you put out a product, you want to control the messaging from start to finish. You don't want no crazy ass YouTuber Twitch streamers like me putting out a message and giving my opinions on it about what is what. You want it to be clear. This is what's going on. But that, like, they've lost it already now, and now people are just commenting on like, oh, this is this is that. I can remember like weird stories coming out about like when this generation started. There was like big stories of, oh, even GameStop employees are saying that PlayStation 4 is better than Xbox One because you can't play used games on it, whatever. That's how quick the information was spreading like wildfire. We was talking in our Discord earlier on. Oh, I had got a few messages. A few of our community were saying, oh, they was talking to their friends, and people are already starting to say, oh, I heard Xbox more powerful. I'm probably gonna get that. Like it's starting already now. Excuse me. Yeah. So however you look at this, for whatever reason they went and did this, this was a major fumble. And the only reason they fumbled here is because of Xbox's pressure. Because Xbox did such a good job 3 days ago with Digital Foundry, and they put this information out. They was like, oh no, there's too much good press going out about Xbox. So what they did, like in a business form, what you do is you let the mass public know about your product, you get that information out there, and then you speak to your developers and whatever. So because GDC, Game Developers Conference, for anybody who doesn't know what GDC is the Game Developers Conference. Originally, when GDC was formed, it was just for like game developers. It wasn't really a press thing. Like game developers went to talk to other game developers. Like if you was an aspiring game developer, you want to know about programming, you could get a ticket, you could go there, you could learn about, you know, how the latest Uncharted was made, whatever. Slowly it started to shift, right? PR started to get involved, publishers started to get involved, because there was like any opportunity to get information out and free press out. So slowly and slowly, that's what GDC has become, right? So when Sony did their press conference for PS4 at GDC, that was like put out to some people, but GDC wasn't really that important for mass perception back then. Now, because on top of what's going on because of Corona, GDC was cancelled, and also Sony couldn't get its information out how it wanted to because everything that's going on in the world. So this was like, as a technical point of view, this was a good show. For mass public, this was a terrible show. Like people were memeing going, oh, are these real people? Are these cardboard cutouts? Literally. Okay, so here's what happened. I watched the show live. I got so bored. I turned it off. I went to the toilet. Literally, I got so bored. I went to the toilet, and then I started watching the news about what's going on with Corona. Because as a content consuming individual, like the mass majority of people are, this was just boring. And then, do you know, when I watched this again, I watched this at 12 o'clock at night, while everybody was asleep, and it's nice and quiet in my house, and I could sit down, you know, all the big stories about the day, what's going on in the world had gone, and I could sit down and literally pause. And it took me like an hour and a half to listen to this. I can pause it, take notes, because I was going to do a talk about this, whatever. And I was like, wow, this was like a good, solid, fascinating bit of information. So in that sense, if you're curious, watch this. If you're a nerd. But for everybody else, like for Twitter and like most YouTubers, and there's memes going around, oh, we don't want to get a PS5, it's only for smart people. Like, but because that's how the industry is at the moment. We are in the era of fake news, of people getting their information from Facebook or WhatsApp messages. Like, you don't put Cerny out to do your first big reveal. If anything, this should have been a private video. You send it to all your game developers, and with YouTube, you can send out links, say, oh, yo, watch this. This is our big message. Get your information about do your slick presentation like Xbox did, and then put this video out as your second thing, not as your first step. So yeah, so that's what happened yesterday. That's like the big story, everything what's going on right now. Now what we're gonna do, we're getting into tech specs. So in large, the consoles are kind of similar. They both are based on AMD's Zen 2 architecture. They're both based on AMD's Zen 2 architecture. They're both 8-core CPUs. They both got 16 gigabytes of GDDR. They're both going to be SSD storage, M.2, NVMe. They're both going to be 4K. They're both going to support 8K to some extent. They've both got 4K HD Blu-ray, HDR support. Obviously, we don't know about ports and things like that with PlayStation because that information hasn't come out. We've seen the design for the Xbox. And now let's get into the differences. So if you haven't, look at we did a Call of Duty video a couple of days ago on the channel or on Twitch. You can find it. Also, if you ain't following, hit that follow button, turn that notification bell on so you do know when new videos drop. I'd appreciate it very much. If you haven't watched that video, we put out a video about how big Call of Duty World War is, and we hope next generation, because the information has been coming out that everything's going to be SSD based. We was like, you know, SSDs are so expensive. We hope that these consoles are going to be 2 terabyte minimum. And now the information comes out is Xbox Series X is going to be 1 terabyte and PlayStation 5 is going to be 825 gigabyte. So if you look at that from a perspective, I know it's SSD, but take that out. Forget that for 1 second. PlayStation 4 launched with a 500 gigabyte hard drive. PlayStation 5, 7 years later, is going to launch with an 825 gigabyte hard drive, or SSD. We're just going to call it hard drive, storage. Like, for 7 years, that's not a big enough jump. I understand why they did it, because of cost, but storage is so important now and is such a pain in the ass. Even Xbox Series X 1 terabyte is too small. These consoles should have launched with 2 terabytes minimum. So already Xbox Series X 1 terabyte is already like, dude, that's small. And then PlayStation, there was like 825. We're not gonna even do the terabyte. And this gets way worse, because once this is formatted, once the operating system is installed, this is not going to end up at 825 gig unless they're lying to us and like, they didn't put, not lying to us, but didn't put that information out correctly. Is actually going to be like 850, and by the time it's formatted an operating system, so by the time you're done, this could be like 750 or lower. And then 750 gigabytes, how many games is that? It's like what, 4 or 5 Call of Duty games? And the problem is these run on SSDs. The SSDs that these run on are not available for the mass public to buy at the moment. So these are going to be hell of expensive. So like, that's the first thing you notice. If you go to Digital Foundry, you want to get a real in-depth nerd tech knowledge, you can get that information there. So they're both going to be 8 core. They're both AMD. They're both going to be backward compatible to an extent. They're both going to support ray tracing, which is great information. Let's talk teraflops now. Now, if you don't know what teraflop is for this generation, next generation coming, is being the marketing term for compute power, of how powerful your console is. So that's what like Sony and Microsoft was using last generation to show how powerful their consoles were. Now, you can't compare a teraflop from last generation to this generation. So 1 teraflop console from last generation to 1 teraflop to next generation is not going to be equal, because silicon processors get better. They have specialized chips in there to make certain computational tasks like easier to perform. So it's not equal, right? A 1 teraflop on the newer console is going to be more powerful than 1 teraflop on the previous console. It's like how they say, you know, you always hear these stories about, the latest Apple phone has got a better graphic card than PS3, whatever, because, you know, it was made like 10 years later. It's got specialized hardware in there to do computational tasks. So it's not apples to apples, right? So the big news story that was coming out was, for in comparison to what next generation, so it's gonna be like direct PS5 versus Xbox 4 or Series X, whatever you want to call it. PlayStation 5 is going to be 10.28 teraflops, and Xbox is going to be 12 teraflops. It's actually more than 12. I think they released that it's going to be 12 point something, like 12.2 or something. So in raw teraflop numbers, it's going to be almost 2 teraflops more powerful. Now, last generation, for anybody who's keeping track, I think there was like a 30% difference. Like the PS4 was 30% more powerful than the Xbox One. Now, if you do those numbers and do the math, it looks like Xbox is going to be about 15 to 20% more powerful than PlayStation 5. But that is conservative estimates, because 1 teraflop is so much more valuable and powerful. Valuable, I don't know if that's the right word. It has so much more power than 1 teraflop from last gen, right? 2 teraflops could mean so much more. We ain't gonna officially know this until we get consoles in our hands and we could do testing. But from everything that they're telling us with ray tracing and all the specialized chips and hardware in there, 2 teraflops it might not end up being just a 20% performance boost. It could be way more. It could be 20, it could be 30, 40%. It could be just 20. But that 20 is like conservative, is like minimum, just by looking at raw numbers. So that's like the big story that is coming out. Also, even though they're both 8-core CPUs, Xbox runs at a higher clock. It runs at 3.6 gigahertz. So all right, we're gonna get into technical details. So the Xbox runs at 3.6 gigahertz for its 8 cores. This is when it's going to be running Xbox Series X games, so new Xbox games. It can run in a 3.8 gigahertz configuration. This is why this information is a bit wrong. It can run in a 3.8 gigahertz configuration, but it will have hyperthreading disabled, or whatever their version that they're calling it. If you don't know what hyperthreading is when CPUs can run like tasks in parallel to not waste CPU cycles. So you know how your PC laptop processors, they have hyperthreading on or off, and it looks like double the cores when you look at your task manager. So it's like it can run at its highest clock rate, but it will have hyperthreading off. So most of the time it's gonna run at 3.6 gigahertz with hyperthreading on, so it would be like double the CPUs, with layman's terms, double the tasks. The PS5 is gonna run at 3.5 gigahertz with their form of hyperthreading on. Xbox has come out and said that the 3.8 gigahertz is mainly going to be reserved for backward compatibility. So if people don't want to do the work for back compat or for early Xbox games, if they don't want to, because if you want to utilize the CPU to its max until you haven't got used to the hardware, you just want to brute force like raw hardware numbers, you can use the 3.8 gigahertz number. But they reckon like midway into the life cycle, people are going to know how to use it and get parallelization of the GPUs and working correctly, so it will be at 3.6. Here's the big difference where the big differences in designs come from now. Xbox went out of his way 3 days ago to say, oh, this was really weird, but now if you look back at it, it's very interesting. Xbox went out of his way to say, oh, our console is clock speed locked. It's clock speed locked. It's not going to be variable. It's going to be clock speed locked. It was weird. I'm like, why are they continuing to say that? It makes no sense. So PlayStation did his reveal yesterday, and they said, our console is fundamentally designed different. It's not going to be clock speed locked. For the first time in the console space, it's going to have a form of turbo boost. Now, it's not going to be as shitty a turbo boost that you see in your phones when they overheat, they slow down, or on your PCs. But fundamentally, it's going to be based on the same kind of principle. The CPU and the GPU will turbo boost up to these clock speeds. So at 10.8 teraflops is best case scenario. Now, they said we're working on cooling on power level. If you watch that Cerny PlayStation reveal, they go in and about how they're going to make sure it's going to hit this. But who knows when, you know, years later when consoles slow down and they get dusty, whatever, if they're going to be able to hit that. So this is where they're fundamentally designed on different things. So this is why it's interesting, right? 3 days ago, before Xbox even knew what was going on with the PlayStation side, it was like, no, we're not going to do variable hertz for our CPU, GPU. We are locked. That's the performance. And now when you look at it in the bigger picture of what Sony revealed just there, oh, you're like, oh, maybe that's why they were saying it. So now this is why the techies and the nerds and the gamers are saying, wow, this not only is it like 2 teraflops less powerful, this is like, it's fundamentally designed different. It's going to be turbo boosting. So that's like the first big design choice difference. The second one is you can clearly see here So in the GPU, this is the next big difference between the two consoles. The GPUs have mini compute units for processing information. They're both AMD GPUs. They're both based on RDNA 2, but the Xbox GPU has just more of these compute units. It has 52 of these compute units, where PlayStation has 36 of these compute units. The difference is, again, they don't show on this graph, the PlayStation compute unit is gonna be clocked at a higher speed. I think the PlayStation compute unit is gonna, for the GPU, is gonna be like 2.2 gigahertz, or it can boost up to 2.2, around there. It can go lower, but it can boost up to that. Again, though, that's best case scenario. They said it can hit that all the time, but now information is coming out that like there's gonna be variables here. You can either choose to boost your CPUs or you can choose to boost your GPU. Where so going to the Xbox side, the Xbox has more of these compute units, but they're going to be clocked at a lower gigahertz. It's like 1.8 gigahertz. So even though it's clocked at a lower rate, because it has more compute units, because the GPU is more powerful, there's a roundabout calculation you can do, and it gives you the final teraflop number. So again, we got like 10.2, and then we got 12.2 on the Xbox side. Now, the other rumors are that the cooling in the Xbox is so good that maybe they can turbo boost this up a little bit. Like, this is like, maybe this could be conservative. We don't know. I doubt it, because they put this information up, but who knows later on. Like, you know, we saw with Switch later on into the life cycle, it got like a boost mode or something like that. Who knows? They just probably want to make sure that they hit all those marks, right? Because they fumbled last generation, they have no red ring of death issues. Their console performs well. It doesn't overheat. It doesn't make too much noise. It doesn't have failure rate, because they're trying to win the hearts and minds of gamers now, because they messed up this generation, right? So that's what they're trying to hit. But yeah, raw performance wise, it has more compute units. It has a higher it does more. It has more teraflop. What's the word I'm looking for? Raw teraflop numbers. It has more. The CPUs are clocked higher, but we're gonna get into the next. So that's what it is with CPU and GPU. But now we're gonna get into, and then there's the RAM. The RAM is really weird. It's if you do a deep dive into the Series X's RAM, I think this is where even though it's 16 gigabytes each side, like PlayStation didn't say what their RAM is clocked at. I think they didn't, but Xbox did, and it's not like it's like a unified pool, but it's broken down into mini RAM modules, which is nothing. That doesn't seem weird. You don't get big ass RAM chips, right? You have like 8 or 12 or whatever RAM chips. But when they did their deep dive breakdown with Eurogamer, they've got like 2 sets of RAM. They've got like, and I think they like said, oh, they made some passing line about, oh, this is because we need to get the consoles out or development purposes. That was code word for, yeah, if we was to clock all the RAM at the highest maximum speed, the shit would be too expensive. So there's gonna be a set amount of RAM that is way faster than like the other pool of RAM. So it's not gonna be like, again, we're gonna get nerdy here. We're gonna talk about last generation. One of the big problems with PS3 was the way it was designed. They had 2 separate pools of RAM. The way the cell processor worked. Now, in concept, it was a good design, but developers hated it because they had to write different memory. What's the word I'm looking for? I did programming at one point. Different calls to memory. You couldn't just make a call to memory to do one unified memory call. There was one on the left and was one on the right, so it was harder to program for. Now, as much as we know, it looks like the memory pool here is unified, and it looks like all of the memories is the same speed. So this is going to be one interesting thing for the Xbox. I was like, I wonder why they did. I know they did it for cost stuff, but wasn't this a big problem for PS3 last generation, that the memory was at different speeds and all that? And like developers hated it. If anything, this is exactly what happened with Xbox One. They had so they went with some weird design this generation. They had a big memory pool, but they then had like a very tiny memory pool, like a couple of 100 meg, that was super fast. And they said, oh, the reason we're designing like that is we can make a like it's kind of form of level 2 cache, but with memory, not on the processor, external. And they said, oh, that'd be really cool because you'll have some super fast memory that the developers can access. But what ended up happening was this was a very unique thing to Xbox, and the developers didn't really want to code for it. So it just became a pain in the long run. So even though we're breaking down information here, we have to remember the reason this matters is consoles play games, obviously, but most of the games that come out for consoles now are multi-platform games. They come out to Xbox, they come out to PlayStation, they come out to Switch, they come out to PC. Only first-party developers make exclusively for that console. So a console can have a really, really unique feature, but that doesn't matter to, say, Bethesda. We're going to cover Doom later today. That's not going to matter to Bethesda. Bethesda is like, okay, we've got to put out a game for free, possibly 4 platforms. Now, if PlayStation has some super duper tech that can make that game run better, unless PlayStation outsells Xbox by a crazy amount like it did this generation, like 100 million compared to 50 million, then okay, we'll code for that special chip, whatever. But if it's neck and neck, or even then, even if it's such a big like gap, right? If you're a capitalist company, want to make money, you're not going to waste development resources to like recode your thing for this special little thing on PlayStation. It's because you got to put out a SKU that works on everything. So when consoles have these unique things that make it better, most of the time, only first-party publishers, developers utilize it, because again, third-party publishers, they want to make something that runs on everything. They want to make it most efficient. So you know how we're talking about, oh, this teraflop, this is teraflop, but like the RAM is a little bit different, and like you know, is a little bit faster here, whatever. This is why this makes a difference in the bigger picture. To the internal studios, it's not. To Xbox, to the Forza team, they're gonna make the best use out of this. Naughty Dog's gonna make the best use out of this on PlayStation. But to the vast majority of games and publishers, they're just gonna code it where it can simply work on both. This is why RTX both consoles have the GPU has an RTX chip. This is why it's great, because at the moment we only had RTX on PC, and remember, if you're a third-party publisher, you've got to put out a game that runs on PlayStation, runs on PC, and runs on Xbox. Are you going to code for something that only a tiny percentage of the PC population can use? And even then, they might not have the specs. They might not have a good enough spec PC to use it. So it doesn't matter, right? This is what the PC gaming community doesn't understand. And we like to hear a little PC master race, blah, blah, blah. Video games are not made on PCs like how the PC master race thinks. Video games are made to sell on whatever platform has the most users on it. And traditionally, up to this point, when you combine both consoles, they have a way bigger player base than PCs do. So publishers target those platforms first. Now, if you listen to Mark Cerny's speech, he goes in on this. He says, oh, don't think that we're using PC parts. We actually designed our GPU in conjunction with AMD. So he was basically trying to throw shade and say, oh, wait, we didn't copy AMD. We gave AMD the ideas, and they used our ideas and then that idea is going to come into GPU tech for PCs later on down the line. And that's exactly how it works. This is why it's so important that these consoles have an RTX chip, because now we have a unified chip in both major console platforms and the PC. And people who say RTX, who don't know what RTX is, RTX could be the next big revolutionary thing that can make, like, you'll see the biggest impact in graphics from RTX than anything else. But Nvidia announced RTX 2 years ago at their press conference, and largely right now we haven't seen anything being used of it, again because publishers just don't want to develop for it, because, you know, there's 100 million PlayStations out there, and there's like 50 million Xboxes out there, so there's 150 million consoles out there where they can sell, where they can like design and code their game. Or are they going to focus on maybe the couple of million people who've got RTX chips, and they're not going to even turn them on PC because it drops frame rate so well, it's so badly. So this is the big news to come out of this. They fully confirmed they both, and it's not even the tiny version. Like there's like simple RTX and there's complex RTX ray tracing. They're going to support, from what we know, both of them are going to support complex ray tracing, which is fantastic. So yeah, both of them. So this is why I say, you know, these little differences and what you're going to know and what does that mean to the bigger picture. So now that I've explained all this to you, imagine me saying, oh wait, Xbox has this weird RAM, but it could work out better. But in the big picture, does it really matter? It doesn't, right? Because the reason I bring this up is we're gonna talk about the next major contention point and the next major. This is the thing. This is the thing that is different between these consoles. So again, there was a big leak in like November, December. The information was that the PlayStation 5 is going to be 9 teraflops. And now it's looking like that leak was kind of correct. It came out of an AMD fab. So, some whistleblower is not the right term. Yeah, whistleblower. No, like that information was leaked, is on a GitHub. But it's looking like that person didn't know about the boost mode. So if you add in the boost mode, that leak fits in perfectly to what we know, because add in the boost mode and that's how they get to 10.28. Now people are a little underwhelmed because we all know how boost mode performs. Now the Digital Foundry video went out of his way to say, no, it's not boost mode like you know it. It's going to be way more stable than that, but we don't know, right? We don't know how that's going to work. Regardless, even if it has a boost mode, it's still 2 teraflops lower. So here's where the next major fundamental difference is. First of all, Mark Cerny went out of his way in yesterday's video, and Xbox has been saying for a while now, we're not going to focus on mechanical hard drives. We're going to focus on SSDs. Now, if anybody's watching this video on YouTube and I don't know what SSD is, traditionally we had physical forms of media. You had the Blu-ray drive, right? On PS3 and PS2, games would load off the disc, right? That was too slow though. For games to load fast, to bring that information into the memory, this form was too slow. So what you started to see on PS3 and Xbox 360, and now it's fully you see in this generation with Xbox One and PS4, is games installed on the hard drive. The reason they do that is so they can have quicker access. They can load things quicker because hard drives are faster than optical media drives. But it's still a major bottleneck, because even though hard drives are quicker, hard drives are still mechanical. They are like metal platters in the hard drive that has to load data from. So since the consoles came out 7 years ago, we've had the big, like, you had SSDs back then, but it was so they were so expensive, it wasn't viable. But now SSD prices have come down. SSD means basically you don't have a mechanical moving parts. They're a hard drive, but they're actually silicon-based chips and they store memory. Think of RAM, but just big pools of RAM, you know, in the layman's terms. So game developers said, look, we want access to SSDs. This will make the biggest fundamental change to our consoles. So you can have quick loading times, quick installs, all that stuff. So that's what both consoles are doing. They're both doing like SSDs from the start. They're gonna both be backward compatible to an extent. So if you want to play PS4 or Xbox One games, you can still connect a hard drive, like a mini portable drive that is actually not a SSD or is a SSD, to store all those games on there. And when you play PS4 or Xbox One games, you can save that information to those old hard drives. If you want to play PS5 games or you want to play Xbox Series X games, that is going to have to be installed onto the SSD, because these games are going to be fundamentally wrote from the start to work with SSDs for quicker load times, so they won't function properly if you have them stored on hard drives. So you're thinking, wait, this is great, this is fantastic, right? Yes, the one downside is SSDs are hell of expensive. And these aren't even SSDs. These are like the latest form of SSDs. Like first, when SSDs came out, they were like hard drive style SSDs. Now you have M.2 SSDs. M.2 is like the form factor. It looks like a stick of RAM. So they're both gonna be M.2 SSDs. But on top of that, they're going to be NVMe. NVMe is like the fastest. There's different forms of M.2 SSDs, and NVMe is like the fastest. So they're both going to support M.2 NVMe SSDs. If you look at, and if you try to buy a NVMe M.2 NVMe for 1 terabyte is a good couple of £100. Like they're really expensive. Here's the thing though, so they're gonna use PCI Express again, chat. I told you this was gonna get nerdy and technical. So if you're a nerd and you like technical stuff, we'll break it down. I've actually flexing my nerd knowledge, my computing background. So yeah, so they're gonna use everything's physically connected on PCs or consoles through some kind of, you know, A to B point. So they're gonna use PCI Express lane 4s. So they're going so the big difference, so not only are they going to use NVMe SSDs, which is great, they're going to be using PCI Express 4. PCI Express 4 is just starting to come to the PC marketplace. Even then, the PCI Express 4 SSDs that we have on the market right now are not going to be as fast as the ones in the Series X or the PlayStation 5. By the time the consoles come out, they're gonna finally catch up. But even then, they're not gonna be it's not gonna be a one-on-one comparison. So this is where the fundamental differences are between the consoles, and this is what we're gonna get into next. They're using PCI Express 4. Both of them are. Here's where the PlayStation is fundamentally designed different. The PCI Express 4 speed that the Xbox hard drive is going to be is about 2.5 gigabytes a second transfer speed. With PlayStation 5, I think is like 5.5 or 5 gigabytes a second transfer speed. So it's like double the speed transfer speed wise. This is like fundamentally what PlayStation is doing different. This is what they went in on when they was doing this whole speech. This is like their linchpin thing, right? This is like their secret sauce. This is what they've been saying for a while about how fast Spider-Man loads. Now, the reason this is so important, Mark Cerny went out of his way to say games are actually fundamentally designed. You're going to have to remember what I said a little while ago now, because this is where we bring everything in together. Games are fundamentally designed with the hard drive or the CD or like the loading speed factored in. So if you're going down a corridor and you want to load the next room, the game is designed in such a way where it knows at this point we have to load the next level. The prime example is, oh, you know, we was playing the Turing test the other day, and when we wanted to go into the other room to load the next puzzle, it had this lift thing in the middle, right? Oh, you gotta go into the lift, go up to the next level, and then you can play the next level. That mechanic is only there so it can help the game load in information in the background. So games are fundamentally designed, every single game. Like, this is why you don't have a straight corridor, right? Most of the time it's not because of gameplay things, it's because they're thinking about, oh, we got to load in these textures. So games are fundamentally designed with these bottlenecks in mind. So the fact that these consoles are going to come with NVMe drives and like specialized hardware, Mark Cerny and PlayStation thinks that this will help fundamentally change the design of video games. Like, if you're playing an open world game and you can turn around and something can load instantly, you know, this will be great for game developers. And game developers are saying, yeah, this is great. Now, here's the thing, and this is why I was going back about earlier on, we was talking about publishers and multi-platform games. So it's twice the speed of what the Series X is gonna be. And I know we're looking at it in crass terms of, oh, this is a win for PlayStation, you know, because we said, oh, the GPU and the CPU is better on Xbox, so this is a win for PlayStation, even though the hard drive is smaller, which I think is a big problem for both consoles. But I think to start off with 825 GB after 7 years is measly, is crazy. So the hard drive is double the speed. They also have specialized chips. They said like the Southbridge, I think they was talking about the Southbridge, or they got a special memory controller on the PlayStation 5, which also speeds this up, because it is not enough for PCI Express 4 and NVMe drives. There's bottlenecks in other places. So the reason that they've got it twice the speed as the Xbox drive is that they've done other things to make it the throughput even more. This is why some people are thinking this is why they're using a turbo boost mode on their CPU GPU, because to anybody who's a PC gamer here or who has done any form of overclocking, right? You know, when you overclock your CPU, it's just not overclock on your CPU. When you overclock your CPU, you know, you get better timing on your RAM, or it can put out your timing on your RAM and like your PCI Express lanes and everything. So overclocking this one thing can end up not just boosting the CPU, it can boost other things as well. It can make your RAM quicker, yada yada. So this is why people are thinking, this is why like the boost mode might be like a great thing for them, because it's helping them to double this throughput. So it could be all linked in, even to that specialized memory chip they've got in. So you know how we were saying the teraflop number? Like if they can make this work well, maybe that 2 teraflops might not be a big of a gap, because they're fundamentally like doing different design decisions, right? They're like putting everything in turbo boost mode so data can get through the system so quickly that games can be designed differently. But where Xbox is going raw power with everything, you know, more compute units, higher gigahertz, higher teraflops. So this is where we go back to, though. If you're a third-party publisher, Xbox sells 50 million, PlayStation sells 50 million, you sell 20 million on PC. Are you gonna go out of your way to fundamentally, because they're saying this is fundamentally different. This is a massive different than how you would design on PC, because the Xbox is more like what you see on PC. The hard drive is even faster than what you see on PC at the moment, but by the time this is out and give it like a year or two, hard drives will catch up. Is a third-party publisher gonna develop their game and their engine for like what runs on everything, or are they gonna go out of their way and spend time, money, and resources to develop on PlayStation? So even though they've got this secret sauce, like we seen with the PlayStation 3 cell processor, which a lot of only first-party publishers utilize, we might see the exact same thing here. Even though they got this new fundamental new tech, how games could be designed, they could change everything. We might not see loading screens, we might not see twisty corridors, we might not see lifts, we might not see those train scenes in Spider-Man. Third-party developers, unless this doesn't 2-to-1, 3-to-1 outsell the Series X, I think third-party publishers, like, vastly, they might ignore this. Like, they might build their engines from the start to utilize it, but like, this really only benefits first-party studios. We know Sony has a great lot of first-party studios, and like to some extent, the first-party studios help to sell PlayStations, but hands down, the only console manufacturer that can say without a shadow of a doubt that their first-party studios help sell games is Nintendo with Mario and things like that. Like Sony can do it secondly, but like Sony's, like they did it a lot with PS3 and like, you know, they got Uncharted and all that, but a lot of their first-party titles are like, they're good, but I don't know if they're system sellers anymore. For the PlayStation fanboys, yeah, sure they are, but to everybody else, they're like, yeah, okay, God of War, Horizon is coming to PC now. So if only first-party developers are going to be able to utilize this to its max, is it really going to be that much of a difference? Or is it going to be, no, wait, this is fundamentally so different. This is, you change the way you design games. So even third-party developers are going to want to use this. So is it going to narrow down that 2 teraflops difference? This is what we don't know now, right? On paper, Xbox looks more powerful. PlayStation 5 has some special sauce, but raw power Xbox has, and from how we know from past history tells us, third-party publishers, and that's the majority of games you're going to play on a console is third-party games, is looking like a straight win, right? I know, again, crass to say win this early, but just at this round one, right? So that's where we are at the moment.
Hey, listen!
We update your regular scheduled reading to give you a little bit of an update. So this will be going up on a highlight up to YouTube. We recorded this on like Thursday. Since this is editing and going up on YouTube, we have a little bit more information, so I thought I would quickly update everybody, because, you know, don't want to be putting out incorrect information as to what the consoles can and cannot do. So everything you hear, so I'm cutting the video here. I'm gonna leave in the original conversation that I had on Twitch and what everybody was reporting on Wednesday and Thursday, because of Sony's bad wording. So as a historical reference, I'll leave that in. I'm not gonna cut it out because it's interesting to see. But they basically released a tweet because everybody was losing their mind regarding backward compatibility, and they released a tweet to clarify their message, which goes back to the story that I am saying in that Twitch stream, that Sony's messaging and PR has been bad. So this just goes on to it. And I know some people have been saying, oh, see, people was just mad. It was fine all along. But literally, like, all the biggest gaming sites in the world were reporting it. It wasn't just, you know, some people not in the know. Everybody thought that this messaging, what I'm going to say in this video, you're going to see in a while, is exactly the same. But pay mostly no mind to that, because they've kind of updated it. It's still not as good as backward compatibility is still not going to be as good as Xbox at the moment for previous generations. For last generation is going to be almost the same, because after everybody lost their mind, they released a tweet to clarify their message. And then what's funny is Xbox kind of backtracked as well. So I thought I'll quickly add that in to update you all. So first of all, Sony basically said update on backward compatibility. They released this on the 20th, so which was the Friday, which was like 2 days later. It is just a like update here to say, oh, a quick update on backward compatibility with all the amazing games on PS4 catalog. We're devoted to significant effort to enable our fans to play their favorite on PS5. We believe that the overwhelming majority of 4,000 plus PS4 titles will be playable on PS5. So when you hear that original cast, what they talk about here is, oh, what we meant to say, and we didn't bring that messaging across correctly. Most of PS4's backward on PS5, most PS4 games will work. And the 100 games we were talking about in our presentation, we were basically saying, oh, these 100 games are gonna be like boosted. They're gonna have better performance. So like everybody's praying right now for Bloodborne 60 FPS. So they're saying like the 100 top played games, they're going to be updated, and going forward we'll add more to that list. But I talk about that in the original stream with Sony's track record, so you know, take that with a pinch of salt. And then because everybody was so mad at this, because everybody was shocked, this was like, oh, it's crazy, like, you know, how could they not do this? They promised this to us. And again, everybody reported that, so I know everybody could be armchair like, right now, I told you so, I knew what it meant, that's what it meant sure along. Nope, no, you never. Like maybe 1 or 2 of you got that, but the vast majority of press, people, everybody thought they were saying 100 games at launch are gonna be backward compatible. So they need, so it just goes to show they need to work on their messaging and PR. So, and then what the funny thing was, Xbox kind of backtracked as well, because everybody was losing their mind so much about is PS5 going to be backward with PS4. Everybody then started to question Xbox, because, you know, everybody wants that to drill down, oh, this is better than that. So then people started tweeting Xbox. When you say all games are backward compatible with Series X, does that mean every Xbox game ever made, or just ones that are currently backward compatible? And then they was like, correction, to date we spent over 100k hours testing our favorite games from Xbox One, including this existing backward compatible 360 and OG Xbox games on Xbox Series X. While we are still in the process of validating, we can confirm thousands of games will be playable at launch. So when they say thousands, they're talking about Xbox One games. So basically their messaging is kind of lining up now. So they went like, oh, everything's gonna work backward compatible for last gen, not for Xbox OG and Xbox 360. They made that bit clear. But what is looking like for backward compatible for Xbox One and Xbox One and PS4 for both platforms, like most games will work. They're trying to update it, but Xbox still has the advantage of it supports OG Xbox, it supports 360. They've been working on that for a long time. Also, where PlayStation is saying we're gonna have like boost mode for 100 games, Xbox, you know, is talking about, oh, HDR support, and developers aren't gonna have to do anything, it's just gonna work. So to clarify, I thought as this video is going up as a highlight on YouTube, I'll just update you all and put out that information what they gave us. It just goes to show though, like, fan pushback, right? Xbox had to like, oh no, we're making grand promises that most will work, And then Sony was like, oh, we got to clarify. It just goes to show you how important backward compatibility is going to be going forward. So it'll be interesting to see. Obviously, PlayStation still haven't told us if PS1, 2, 3, they're going to support that. Some people in the industry have been saying that's a joke if you think it is. Some people are saying maybe, and they're saving that announcement for later. We just don't know. Most people in the know think, oh, maybe not. So backward compatibility wise, Xbox still has the edge at the moment. We can all still hold hope, right? Because I wish I can pack away my PS3 finally. So we'll keep you updated going forward. We're gonna go back to that original broadcast that was recorded a couple of days ago. Like I said, I'm not gonna cut it out because it's interesting to see, right, how the build up and how these big firms are like changing minute by minute and making sure they clarify what they say. Some are adding more to it, some are like pulling back, like no, we didn't mean that. So but you know, I was putting up as a highlight on YouTube, so I thought I'll add this bit in rather than make a new video or take down my original video. But it does come to that question, right? Like I talk about in that original stream, once that information is out there, it like catches like wildfire, right? How many streamers, for example, are going to delete a whole stream because Sony's messaging was wrong? Or how many sites put out stories and how many YouTubers put up videos and tweets were sent about, oh, backward compatibility, what's going on? And that information is just out there now. Luckily, it wasn't even in my news feed. Like I didn't realize that they backtracked on that statement or clarified that statement. I was just randomly going through Twitter and I saw this. I was like, wait, what? They clarified this? I was like, oh, and I found out this out late on Saturday while I was going through my feed. I didn't even hear about it Friday. So you know, like I was saying, this generation is going to be so important about getting that information out and on the right sources, and streamers and YouTubers and Instagram and Twitch and Facebook and WhatsApp messages that their friends are passing. That's what is going to spread the information like wildfire. So they should have got to hit that ball out the park straight time, first time. You know, you got to get that information correct. So like I was saying, like how many YouTubers do you expect to delete their videos about the information they put out on the Wednesday and Thursday? This is why it's important to get that messaging correct first time, you know. So it just goes to show, right, how much a fumble they did make in that initial, you know, video is on like 90 something, 100 something thousand K dislikes, whatever at the moment. So let's hope that next big presentation that Sony does, they hit out the park. It's getting interesting and already. Now back to your regular scheduled broadcast. If you're watching this though, don't forget to hit that follow button, subscribe, even turn those notification bells on so you do know when new videos drop. I'd appreciate very much. The only other big next thing was where Sony shot themselves in the foot was backward compatibility. I cannot believe they messed up so badly with this. So Xbox went out of his way, and they've been saying for a couple of years now, even the Xbox One, we do backward compatibility. You can play your Xbox One original Xbox games. You can play your 360 games. So they went the same way with Series X. They just came out and said the publishers of those games do not even have to code to do updates for those games. Those games from the start will be backward compatible with Xbox Series X, and they would just work. They showed a game that was 12 or 15 years old, and they put ray tracing into that game, and they said when those publishers see this game from 15 years ago, even they will be impressed. You know, because they don't know. It just works from the start. So all your purchases, like your library will go with you. Now, the big rumors were that PlayStation's going to do the same thing. You're going to be able to play your PS1 games. You're going to be able to play your PS2 games. You're going to be able to play your PS3 games. Oh, it's going to be so hype. It's going to be dope. PlayStation came out and said yesterday, yeah, we've designed our... with AMD, we've designed our CPU so it's fully backward compatible with PS4. That's all they said. They committed to PS4. But then they said, oh, we did some studies and it's going to be the top 100 most played games on PS4 at the start. They went out their way, and we should make this clear. They went out their way to say at the start is going to be the top 100 played games on PS4. But Sony has a track record because this is what they did with this gen. They said, oh, it's gonna get PS2 support. You're gonna be able to like buy those games on PSN store. But after a year or two, Sony is known to not give a shit about backward compatibility and bring in old games unless they can make money off it and they can resell it to you. Now, Xbox is trying to win hearts and minds because they fucked up so much with last generation. For about 3-4 years, they've been saying this for totally free. If you own that disc, if you got that game, you could just plug it into your current Xbox. And they're carrying that same mindset through to next generation. So even though Sony is saying it's fully backward compatible with PS4, PS4 Pro, top 100 games at the start, you can't trust Sony at the moment because a year or two later, because this is how, like if you look back at like information about how console manufacturers think, they say when the generation initially starts, console manufacturers think about backward compatibility because it was from it stems from the Super Nintendo days when soccer moms were buying an NES and went from Super Nintendo. They were shocked. They were like, wait, what? The Super Nintendo, again, I'm boomer, I'm old, I remember this. They were saying, oh wait, the Super Nintendo can't play on Nintendo games? This is crazy. There was like, there's actual videos you can find on the internet where soccer moms are going, I have to I have to buy another console and it doesn't play its old games? This is crazy. This seems crazy to me because they couldn't understand tech well. No, this is a total new platform. But that thinking and mindset, we was told this generation, we was like, oh, going forward, but all consoles are more designed like PCs. So when you buy a new graphic card, that doesn't mean your old games don't work no more. When you buy a new CPU, it doesn't mean, in general, some obviously don't, but in general, everything works. And we was told that going forward, all consoles are going to be the same. They're just going to be fully backward compatible. It's actually stupid. They said it's actually stupid to think of it like, oh, it's going to be like that. Microsoft is so confident. They said, and they did this in partnership with CD Projekt, who's gonna bring oh my days, I'm mind blanking on their new game chat. Cyberpunk, sorry. Cyberpunk put out an announcement. Oh, you're not gonna have to rebuy your game on the new Xbox. Fundamentally, you're not gonna have to rebuy your new game. We're just gonna update it. If you buy it, if you buy it on the Xbox, when there's an update out, we're gonna update it with graphics and features and everything, and it's gonna run on the new Xbox. You're not gonna have to rebuy your game. This is how much Xbox is going with backward compatibility and forward compatibility with their games. And what does Sony do? And Sony has, and reason people are mad at this, and rightfully so. Remember, I'm a massive PlayStation fanboy. I own the PS1, PS2, PS3, PS4, and I own all my games on those platforms because I collect them. So it would have been great to pack away all your old consoles, have a fully backward compatible console, because they have a much richer library of games. All right. So if PlayStation 5 was full, and I know for PS3 it would have been hard because the Emotion engine is like hard to like re-emulate because the cell processor was such a beast. Even to this day, like they talked about the cell processor from PS3 in Mark Cerny's speech. He said the cell processor was such a beast. We got specialized. So the one other difference that the PlayStation 5 has, they're doing something different with audio. They're bringing out a new revolutionary chip. They're gonna try to do some new stuff with audio. It like got big dreams, pipe dreams. But again, it's the same problem, right? If PC audio is at a certain level, Xbox audio is at a certain level, and Switch audio is at a certain level, or third-party developers gonna really program for this specialized audio chip that you've got in the PlayStation when you don't know what the end, because the statistics tell us the end user doesn't give a shit. He's just listening to the TV flat screen speakers. So you're doing all this cool stuff, but how many are going to develop for it? Because we know development studios spend the least amount of money on audio. They spend millions now compared to before, but still nowhere near compared to everything else. So they've got this specialized fast hard drive, and they've got this specialized fast audio chip, but how many third-party developers are going to use this? This is their two secret source things. Sorry, I got sidetracked. So yeah, backward compatibility. So this is where Sony has, and I don't know how they're going to save this. This is a massive screw up for them. People were saying in our community yesterday, oh, it was like, oh no, I don't think the teraflop thing is such a big deal. It was like, oh, I don't think the teraflop thing is such a big deal. But at the same time, it was like, oh, I'm not going to buy a PlayStation or Xbox at the start. But that means that PlayStation failed with his messaging, right? If it hasn't convinced you to buy a PlayStation already, that means they failed. If this Xbox and PlayStation is saying we're not going to have no exclusives when the generation first comes out, and now we know that it's not going to be fully, like, it is going to be backward compatible, but it depends how much they support it. Like, PlayStation is taking major hits already, right? So that's a roundup of everything. That's where we are at round 1. These are like the big talking points and what's going on. Again, I didn't talk enough about the audio chip and what they're doing with sound and all that. It sounds very cool and everything, but as we know with what happened with 3D glasses, as we know what happened with VR headsets, people just prefer ease of use and easeability. How many people play with headphones on? How many people are going to get specialized headphones? They didn't talk about, oh, we got this new audio chip and it's going to do this cool virtual audio stuff. They didn't say, are you going to need specialized speakers? Are you going to need headsets that are like compatible with this new virtual audio? They didn't get into that stuff. So most people, you would just take convenience. I have a surround sound system that is worth 400-500 quid. I hardly ever use it. All I gotta do is press a button. I use it when I'm not streaming sometime to get 3D audio when I'm playing Spider-Man or racing games. Most of the times, I'm like, can't be bothered. So, like, even though that audio stuff sounds cool, it's just too early to know, like, how many third-party developers are gonna develop for it. Is it gonna get mass, like, you know, is everybody gonna start programming for it? So the Sony is doing some cool stuff, even though it looks like at the moment there's a big power gap. But how many developers are going to use this? Is this only going to be a first-party developer thing? If you come to Sony platforms for only first-party titles, then maybe it's for you. But going forward, they're not producing the same way that they were, like, you know, like PS3. They had, like, all they're doing is like, oh, it's another title, and that we got another Uncharted game, we got another, you know, Gran Turismo. And so does first party studios still have the pulls? There's those big rumors going on at the moment that they're looking to buy the Metal Gear license, right? Maybe they knew, maybe they know. If you're PR right now and you're thinking, okay, we've got at least power, we haven't got as powerful as console. This is why we're not shouting about teraflops this generation, because we know we're underpowered, or not underpowered, but not as powerful. There's rumors coming out about, like, if they bought the Metal Gear Solid franchise of Konami, right, that would be a big steal. Like, but this is where we are at round 1. This is why this is fascinating. This is why you have not got to be a fanboy or fangirl at the moment. This is why you just got to look at this objectively. This is why I try to talk about both sides. Again, I've been kind of a little bit negative on PlayStation, even though I'm a PlayStation fan. Because this is just round 1. This information has come out now. Now we've got to see what PlayStation looks like. The next big battle to be won is the price. We don't know the price of both consoles. Famously, we know console generations have instantly, in day 1, in a second, been lost because of console price. If you price it too expensive, you could lose the console generation from the start. And this is the one thing we don't know. Clearly, the Xbox is going to be more expensive to produce. It's got more silicon. It's got a bigger NVMe drive. It looks like it's going to be more expensive, but who knows? Xbox said, Phil Spencer came out and said, we're not going to be underpowered this generation, and he said we're going to be competitive in price. It's looking like PlayStation made their console with the mind of, oh, we are going to get this in at a good price. If they are both priced the same at this moment in time, then PlayStation's going to take another hit. But what people are expecting is going to be like $399 for PlayStation, and Xbox is going to be $50 quid pound more expensive. If they're smart, they would price themselves the same. If they're really smart, they will underprice, because they have the capital to do it. And consoles are is not a sprint, is a race to the finish, is a long race, right? 5-7 years, right? So this is, we got a couple of months. Yeah, we don't know if Corona's gonna, we don't even know if consoles are going to be delayed at this point. Who knows? Because of Corona, are they going to hit this year? There was some rumors coming out that it was going to come out on Thanksgiving. Xbox was going to come out Thanksgiving. That was proved to be a rumor, and it wasn't true. They came out and said that's not real. We still don't know release dates. We still don't know prices. We still haven't seen any first-party titles. Well, Xbox has sold something, but we've seen nothing from PlayStation. They sold one game, right? But we still haven't seen the games, which is the most important. The games. So there's still a lot to play for. Round one, if unless you're blind and you're just a fanboy, you don't realize that Xbox X is winning at the moment. I know it's weird and it's dumb to say because the console's even out yet, but this is just how the internet works at the moment. This is how stories spread. This is how things start. You know, if you look back at last generation with can it play your used games, it starts here. The war has begun. This is like, get your popcorn out. This is kind of fun, right? Already people are saying to me, oh, I'm gonna buy Xbox because, you know, it's more powerful. And going forward, we're gonna still have first party exclusive. Everything is cross-gen play now. Mortal Kombat just did it. Fortnite does it. Call of Duty does it. Last generation, it was like, oh, what did my friends get? Regardless if it's the better console or the worst console, I'm gonna play where my friends are. But that doesn't even matter anymore because now these publishers have buckled to the pressure that, you know, this is good for the consumer. So everything is like cross-save, everything is cross-play now. Xbox is doing like buy it once and it will play on PC, it will play on Xbox, it will play on next generation. Sony's taking longer to, you know, implement that. So it doesn't even matter if, oh wait, my friends are all playing Call of Duty on PlayStation, so I got to play it. It doesn't matter. You'll be able to play with them anyway. So they haven't even got that in their chamber at the moment. So it is really getting super interesting now. So that's where we are at this point. It's looking hell of interesting. At the moment, I'm like, okay, I'll keep me personally, my personal opinions at the moment. I'm like, Xbox is winning at the moment. It looks the more powerful console. I'll keep my PS4 to play on my PS4 games. I'll buy an Xbox. I can get rid of my Xbox One because it will be fully backward compatible. So I might as well get my new Xbox because it will fully be backward compatible and forward compatible. And then if PlayStation does something mind-boggling, I'll get a PlayStation to play the new games. And because, you know, forward compatible, backward compatible. So one last point, we're gonna just talk about PC Master Race. And you punks, I'm joking, right? Don't dislike this video. Don't forget to hit the follow button. Turn those notification bells on. We got to talk about PC Master Race. PC Master Race was like, oh, whatever, consoles, ha ha ha, it's 2020, blah blah blah. Oh wait, sorry. I remember I was gonna talk about the other big drama point is the SSDs. So Sony has came out and said that we're gonna support off-the-shelf SSDs. They said they gotta be certified because SSDs are a certain size. They have heat sinks, they have fans. They might not be fast enough because they're saying our SSD is so fast. Even by the end of the year, at PCIe 4, we got a 5.5 gigabit throughput a second. Even the latest NVMe drive on the market now is not going to be fast enough. NVMe drives have two transfer profiles. They have profile 1 and profile 2. They said our drive is going to have 5 profiles. So you have to have an NVMe drive, PCIe 4, that is going to be 7 gigabyte a second throughput to even be compatible with the PlayStation, to beat the overhead. And they reckon by the time the year is out, those drives will finally be available on PC. Give it about 2 years. Maybe they're going to be reasonably priced because this drive is going to be hell of expensive. To get this drive might be the price of what they're saying. That drive might be the price of the console, you know. But in a couple of years' time, it'll probably come down. The same thing with Xbox. So you know how people are saying at the moment is, oh, it's double the throughput. It's absolutely insane. It's mind-boggling. But you got to remember, 2.5 gigabytes a second, with specialized hardware, this is faster than what you can get on the PC market space at the moment. Nothing competes with this at the moment. This is why both of them are saying we do specialized SSDs and you can't buy off the shelf. PlayStation is saying, oh wait, air quotes, kind of you can buy off the shelf, but we've got to certify it. It's got to be this, this, and this, and this, and this, and then it will work. What Xbox did is they've got their new revolutionary memory card kind of style, and people are like poo-pooing this like crazy. Oh wait, proprietary memory? What is going on here? Everybody was losing their mind. Yeah, it kind of sucks, especially when Sony have said, wait, you're going to be able to buy off the shelf. Not really off the shelf. You got to wait 1.5 years for those drives to be out. They're going to be hell of expensive, and even then we're going to tell you what drive is going to work. Where Xbox has said we're working with Seagate, it, like it's going to be a external M.2 drive because this platform doesn't exist, so we have to kind of make it. And like gamers are losing their mind at the moment. So proprietary, what is this 2000 and where's this PS Vita again? This thing didn't exist. The reason they have to create this, when Sony did it with PS Vita, they did it for money. They didn't do it because it was better for the consumer. They didn't do it, it was better storage space because you could get faster drives, you could get better storage drives. They did it because they wanted to control everything, right? They wanted the licensing fees and everything. They was trying to push a format on you. Xbox is not trying, they're not trying to push this format on you. This is with Seagate. They're literally doing this to say our console is fundamentally designed with SSDs in mind. You can't get external SSDs at the moment. So they made this thing. So their storage solution is, you know, we've got external card. What if I was them? What I would do right now, I would do the same thing Sony did. It's still early days. The console hasn't come out. I would say, okay, we'll support third-party drives, but we gotta like check to make sure they will work. Because Mark Cerny literally said we haven't done those tests yet. He said, yeah, when those drives come out, we're gonna have to test them and then we'll let you know. So when PC crowd or the gamers are crying now, I'm literally saying, are you out of your mind? What they're inventing here doesn't exist at the moment. There's nothing on the PC space that is this fast at the moment. So yeah, this is like the big thing when contention, right? It was like, oh, proprietary format, blah, 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 blah. You have to understand they did this because this format does not exist in its current form. You haven't got external drives at this speed at the moment. If Xbox wants to do right by their players, they should say, okay, we're gonna make a case. They should say, okay, this case gonna open and you can put your M.2 drives in there as long as they're a certain speed. If I was them, if I was Big Philly, if you're listening, Phil Spencer, do that, and that'll be another win. Because if they're gonna do a proprietary format, M.2 drives are hell of expensive anyway. External M.2 drives don't exist, so they'll be even more expensive. So people are like, and these consoles are gonna need 100%. These consoles are gonna need more storage because 1 terabyte is not gonna be enough. I guarantee you my soul on that. Like within 2 years, you're gonna need it because these games are gonna be massive. So yeah, this is like the one big difference. But even then, even saying that, people are saying, oh, this is 5 gigabytes a second. 2.5 gigabytes a second on PCIe 4.0 is faster than what you can currently get in the PC space. Somebody's gonna quote me and say, oh wait, no, you can totally get that right here, blah. But with specialized hardware and to get the same throughput, it doesn't exist at the moment in its current form. By the time the end of year is out, you're gonna get these drives that are fast enough. They're gonna be hell of expensive. They might be the price of the console alone. This is why they're both saying proprietary or we got a certified. So don't sleep on Xbox's, oh, it's only 2.5. 2.5, the way they're designing it is gonna be revolutionary. So it's gonna speed up everything. Installs, download, like that depends on your installs, how like download installs. This is still gonna be hella fast. We don't know how PlayStation is gonna use this double the speed of this and how many developers are gonna support it. It might be this cool feature that nobody supports but first-party developers. We have to see the games at this point. So when people are saying, oh, this is a major, oh no, it's like double the speed. We don't know if that's gonna play out to third parties. And second of all, this is the only thing at the moment is we don't know what these drivers are going to be. For all we know, People are saying, oh, this supports proprietary drives. Sony is saying it will support off the shelf. They might end up being the exact same price. Seriously, NVMe M.2 PCIe Gen 4 drives will be so expensive, they might end up being the exact same price. So then it's not even an issue, right? The reason that people complain is, oh, proprietary drives are way more expensive, blah, 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 blah. It's not like you're gonna use your SSD here and then you're gonna pull it out of your Xbox and then plug it into your PC now and again. You're gonna stick it on your console and it's there and it's done, right? So it's all about price. They could be exactly the same. It's too early to say about that. But this is one fumbling point and they won here. But even this is not even a clear victory yet. All we know, the drives that they say will work could end up being £200-300 drives. Is that really that much of a win? If you've got less memory and your drives that you're saying that will work on PlayStation will end up like £300, $300. Forget that. So yeah, that's the bigger picture. So when PC Master Race is saying at the moment, these consoles, blah, haha, you're joking. PCs, unless you're spending 4 or 5K, cannot do ray tracing at a stable frame rate that these consoles will be able to do now. The fact that when these consoles come out at the end of the year, it will fundamentally change the landscape for PC gaming as well. If you want to play these at the same settings and everything, you're going to either have to spend a couple of grand on your PCs or upgrade your PCs, and everything's going to follow suit. Engines are made for consoles, and then those are ported to everything else, because consoles have always been the first platform publishers develop for, because they fundamentally make them more money. That's why they exist, to make money. Publishers, that's why they exist. So when PC Master Race blah 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 is saying this is just noise. They fundamentally don't understand how the gaming space works. Yeah, you have Steam who makes exclusives just for their platform. That's like individual cases. I'm talking on a general mass scale. So when PC gamers are saying, "Hey, I make a PC with any of these specs right now for free, $400 they're gonna be in," is pie in the sky. It's pie in the sky. So most people will probably buy one of these. Problem is Xbox. The problem that Xbox has at the moment is, why would you buy a Series X when you could play most of their games on PC? The reason you buy it, and before it was like, oh, I could play this on PC. Why would I buy a Series X? But now you can't even say that, because to play at this quality with ray tracing and everything, you would have to spend 4 or 5 grand. So no, you're not, because very few people are spending that kind of money. I know you see these Twitch streamers and these YouTubers, millionaires that are doing it, but like most people don't. Most people are spending like a grand. So you haven't even got that option to say, no, I'll just play it on PC. If you want the same quality, you're going to have to buy this box. So this is a reason to buy this box. Same thing with PlayStation. I know like Horizon is finally coming out to PC. We play for the exclusives, but they still have a reason. The only problem is now, like, which one do you buy if you're going to buy one? And have they done enough to get you to invest in next generation? At the moment, PlayStation showed us nothing. All that PlayStation has showed us is it's not going to be fully backward compatible. It's not as fast as the Series X. So, but they could do something crazy, and this won't happen, right? Imagine they said, oh, wait, it's going to be $200. It wouldn't even matter. It wouldn't even matter, right? If they said, bam, $200, you'd be like, haha, it doesn't matter. Xbox more powerful, lol. I'm sorry, I'm trying to imitate the internet. It wouldn't matter, right? Sega's done it. We know it didn't work for them, but Dreamcast came out at that price, right? So this again, it is all still to be played for. Like, Sony could show games with their new tech about how stuff loads that is so fundamentally different, is mind-boggling, and you could be like, oh shit. So they still got to show the games, and they've still got to show the price of both consoles. But as it stands, if they're both priced $399, that's what I think they will be. Then it will be matter on the games. But at the moment, in total, the Xbox is seriously seeming like a freaking nice package. But it's all to play for. It's all to play for. Again, that was hella long. That was probably even over an hour. That was a chunk of information. Like, that's everything that you need to know. So those rumors about PlayStation 5 and those leaks were correct. We've finally seen what fundamentally underneath is in these consoles, where they differ, what's the big things about it. We've just got to see what the PlayStation looks like now. Thank you for bearing with us. I know that was super nerdy. This will be going up on YouTube. If you're watching this on YouTube or Twitch, don't forget to hit that follow button, hit that subscribe button, turn those notification bells on so you know when new videos drop. Come check us out over on Twitch or YouTube, whichever way you're watching it. Discord, we have a Twitter. I'd appreciate it very much. If you find this interesting, let me know what you thought. Keep the fanboy wars to a minimum. Yeah, it's gonna be hard to kind of say, right? You know, just go look at the dislikes on that video. It's probably climbing by the second. I hope both of them, personally, I hope, like, obviously is like, oh, which one do I want to buy? Which one do I want to spend my hard-earned money on? Because we're all not made of money, right? We ain't got that much money to spend on everything. Personally, I hope they both compete with each other to the end, because that means better things for us, the consumer. This is the reason we have cross-play now. This is the reason we have, like, buy once and up gen. It plays everywhere. It's because of competition. Competition is better for us, the user. So you shouldn't really be hoping for, oh, I hope the other one wipes the floor with the other one, because all it means is that company gonna rip you off. So think smart. You want them to both, like, tear chunks out. No, they won't like that. Like, you know, PG tear chunks out of each other, because you know what happens? You know those chunks that fly off? Each chunk is a nugget of gold for us, because then we get, like, better deals and more value for the consumer. That would be the perfect thing. But console generations are one at the start is a snowball effect, right? Like, one little thing could come out and everybody's like, oh wait, this is more powerful, I'm gonna buy it, whatever. Or this loads quicker, no more load times ever again. Oh wait, this is half the price. And then, you know, it's a snowball effect. Whoa, what did you buy? What did your friend buy? We're gonna buy that. But it's gonna be much more difficult now. It's not gonna matter. We're repeating stuff. Is not gonna matter on can I play cross-gen with my friends, whatever. So keep an eye here. I'm sure we'll do more of these videos. This is gonna be hella interesting going forward. Again, with Corona and everything, I don't know if this, in the bigger scheme of things, right? Who knows? Are we still gonna be here? Yeah, I don't know. I hope they don't miss their launch. It might look like they're missing their launch. It's gonna be hella interesting to keep an eye on. Thank you for listening.